All right, this is maybe I guess you could say a revised video. 2009 Polaris 525 IRS rear inner boot change. A lot of times the one on the left side will fail sooner than the right because of the oil on the chain that slings off. That's my impression anyways. So we're going to be changing it. It's actually a pretty easy job, and the other video I made was just too long, so here's a shorter one. A lot of cuts in it, and on to the next step. Okay, first step, take your lug nuts noose, take out that cotter key, and take off that wheel nut. Do it while it's on the ground still. That way the quad, you don't have to try to hold the wheels from turning. It's a lot easier. You can set your brake and just get them off. Okay, once you get the nut off and everything, jack it up. I just jack it up in the back. I put a one jack stand right underneath the center piece that comes all the way to the back, and it kind of balances right there. But I'll leave that other one on there just for support. Next thing you want to do is get the hub off. This thing just slipped right off for me. Typically they might be a little bit harder, but that's not a press fit, so it shouldn't be that difficult to get it off. It almost looks like there might be some anti-seize on there, so I'd say maybe for reassembly a little anti-seize. Once you get that off, take these bolt out here so you can drop this knuckle down. Okay, got the bolt out. Swing the arm up out of the way, pull this down. Should be able to pull it down. If that doesn't stay up, you just have to get something and zip tie it up out of the way. Pull that down, pull that up out of there. Okay, let it rest right there. I'm probably going to have to get something to keep that up out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is we need to take the clamps off this joint. Take the outer one off first. It's important to keep your quad off the ground too, so you can spin this whole thing and get to the pieces that you need to get to. So there's some squeeze points on here. Just go ahead and take. You could take this one off first, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so just be careful when you took that clamp off. Try not to damage it because you're going to be putting it back on. Next thing is we need to take this this boot. Just turn it inside out. It just gets it out of the way. It's a lot easier if you do that. It'll give you a chance to inspect everything too, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we take this off. In the end, this will come completely off, but for right now, to get this joint off, we got to put it inside out. Okay, that works right there. Now just get a hammer, rubber hammer, preferably something like this. It's kind of all beat up, but anyways, you want to strike here. You can hold on to this and strike at it. Whack it a few times. It should come off. Might take you a few hits. Just kind of progressively hit it harder and harder, and then it'll pop off. Okay, I hit it maybe 7-8 times and kind of progressively hit it, but you want to try to hit on this ring part here. I mean, if you're hitting out here, it's just going to make it turn, so you always try to strike it on this area. All that's holding it on there is just a little snap ring. So get that off. Now what we want to do is pull the boot back inside right. Okay, just like that. Let's go ahead and remove the upper clamp up here. Same method as the other one came loose. Okay, so you just work at it. The boot sits on a groove on the shaft, so you just gotta maybe get a screwdriver underneath there and get it started, and then it'll just come right off. Again, be careful, don't damage the boot. We're gonna reuse this boot. The other thing is the inner clamp will just slide right off now. Careful not to damage it. Okay, so now on this part of it, basically what I'm gonna do is remove the chain and the sprocket. It's just difficult to put the new boot back on if you don't remove the chain and the sprocket. I mean, I suppose you could loosen the chain and not take it off completely. It might be in your way a bit, but just do what you want. You just got to get it out of the way, and the sprocket. Okay, so now we got the chain and the sprocket off. Bolts come out a little stiff. They have Loctite on them, and so sometimes they're a little stiff to get out. But and the chain master link is a little kind of a bitch to get out too. But it'll give you time to also check your sprocket and to see if there's some wear, and maybe you want to replace this. I suppose you could probably change sizes too. You couldn't get too crazy because the guard there's not enough room, but you could. Anyway, so next what we're going to do is take off this clamp here. This last clamp that holds this boot on. And then I'll walk you through taking the ring off. Okay, so now that we got the ring off, or the clamp off, we're going to take the ring. You can see the split is right here. So all we need to do is get a screwdriver and get up underneath one side of that. See if I got one small enough. I'll try this one here. So hopefully I don't get in the camera away. But you can see there's one side that's it's got a little it's not solid all the way to the end. There's a little relief, so you can actually get a screwdriver in there and get it out. So you just take it and get it underneath there, and once you get it out far enough, you can just pull it out like that. And there's your ring. Once you get your ring off, get a handy dandy pick like this one. Just a little pick, simple little pick, and you can take it and hook. There's another ring that's embedded in the rubber. I think there is, anyways. There should be. Yeah, and that will come right out with one of those hooks pretty easy. Then you can just yank it off here if you want. That way you can inspect the whole thing, and there it comes off. Mine had, thought I had some cuts in this, but it actually, let's take a look at this and see what I got. Turn it back inside right. It appears I might have had some rat cuts. Yeah, a rat had chewed on this. I actually thought I had a full-blown rip in this particular boot, but I didn't. It was getting a little lumpy, so you know it's not that hard to change these, so change it. There you go. See, now you're to that part. See all that crap in there? Now you need to clean all that out. You don't have to get deep in there. Mainly, you want to clean all the way up, you know, right up to here, all the way out. There's just wads of old grease that is dried up, and all that's got to be cleaned out of there. It'll take you a little bit. You'll have to use several paper towels, shop towels. I used a brake cleaner and just kind of repeated that over and over, and it actually broke through that grease eventually and make it nice and shiny new. Get to that part and we'll move on. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. We got it all cleaned up. Took a while. A lot of paper towels, brake cleaner. Make sure that you clean the groove, this groove along this the inside here that the snap ring came out of, because it'll be a lot easier to put back together if the groove's clean. I found that on every one I've changed so far, there's been a lot of, at least a certain part of it that has little rust in it, little debris and stuff, and the first one I did, I didn't clean it out. It was a little bit more difficult to get back together. The second one, when I actually cleaned it, it just went right back into place pretty easy. So make sure you clean it. It makes assembly a lot bit faster. Next step, putting the grease in. So I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay, so now we're going to put the grease in. Here's the grease packet. What I do is just tear the top off just because it has a little spout area where it can just squirt out at a point. And just squeeze it in around and just try to push your shaft in. And at this point, it's not a bad idea to zip tie the axle up to the shock right in the middle of one of the coils to where it's pretty level, because then you can turn it while you're that's in there and just get it all in there really good. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Alright, once you get it in there like that, that's one packet, and it basically I've got the shaft level. I'm able to rotate this around and get that grease all the way in there. It's kind of packed in there and tight as I can get it. Now I'll take the other packet, squeeze about 3/4 of it on top of that, and then I'll be ready to put the boot on. I'm saving 1/4 of the grease to repack into this one when I put it on the outside. That way this gets a little fresh grease in it. Can't hurt. And you know what, I mean, they give you more than enough for that. So I'm gonna put the other 3/4 back in there, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so that's all the grease I'm gonna put in there. I'm gonna disconnect the strap from the coil here. I'm gonna slide the new boot over and then reconnect this. That way when I put that ring in there, it's at a neutral position, the shaft, and it'll allow me to put the ring on there a lot easier, and I can rotate it around as I'm trying to put the ring on. Okay, so now I push the boot all the way on there. It's not a bad idea to put a little bit of just a tad of grease on the very end of the shaft or on the inside of that boot on the tip when you go to slide it in there, because it'll slide down that shaft. And just make sure you push it all the way onto the groove where the clamp has to go in there. So now you can see the shaft's neutral position. I've got it pushed in there all the way, you know, manually all the way around. Now we'll get our ring. Where is the ring? Okay, so now the ring, other than the obvious, you know, when you know where it goes, so just put it back in there. Work your way around from one side to the other, kind of holding it all down at once, and you'll kind of get it in there a little bit, but it's not going to be in there all the way. You want at least maybe a 1/16 to 3/32 of rubber showing. The best way to do it is to work your way around. So you're going to take your pliers and squeeze onto the ring on the outside of here, ensuring that you just grab just the ring itself. So work your way from where you got it in right here, and just give it a pinch. Work your way around, a pinch, and this is where the shaft in the neutral position becomes handy. You can see how it just went in right there. It's going in easy because we cleaned out the groove, and you can see it's almost like seated in almost all the way around now because it just went in so easy. Had you not cleaned that groove, it wouldn't have happened like that though. This is probably the easiest one I've done. That sucker just went right in. I mean, literally, it is in there all the way now. I'm going to just still go around just to make sure. But actually, you got about 1/8 of an inch, maybe in some places, of rubber showing. I mean, it should be relatively even all the way around. But you can always just get right in there. Just careful with the threads. I don't know, I feel like it's like popped right into place. Like I really had to do virtually no work there to get that in there. First few I did were a little more difficult. That's pretty good. So that's in. Solid. That part's done. Now you can put your clamp back on here, and we'll just work our way out. So we're going to go clamp, and then we'll go, we can put the sprocket on. Obviously get the sprocket on, and you can put your chain back on. Make sure you put your locking tabs back on the bolts that hold the sprocket on, and get those locked down in position. Make sure you put Loctite back on the bolts when you put it back together. Put the the sprocket bolts in. Have to have Loctite, and we'll work our way out. Okay, so we got the sprocket back on. I don't have the locks in place because I may want to crank them down just a little bit more once I get it on the ground, and then bend the tabs back. If the tabs break, they're pretty cheap. You know, less than $10 you can get a pair of them, and you can buy all the bolts too. Get some new bolts if you wanted to. So we got the inner strap on here. So now what we're going to do is put the outer boot on first. Okay, and just feel inside the boot and just kind of make the grease go through your hands. Make sure there's no grit or anything in there. If there is, clean this really good. Clean that really good, and make sure there's no like mechanical damage to any of the DV joint, the bearings or assembly in there. Anyways, So we're gonna actually we're gonna put the. Gotta stop the music, otherwise they're gonna say I can't put this on YouTube. So put your ring on first, and just let it sit up there. Then slide this on there. It's already got some grease on it. I've already checked it. Get it up over the spot. Put your clamp on here, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so I got my boot on. I got my clamp on. Now, basically, we're gonna just take this. We're gonna line it up in there with the splines, and it should go on maybe like a 1/4 inch or something, and you'll feel it. You can't turn it. It's locked in the splines. And then just take your hammer, your rubber hammer, and basically you're just going to whack the end of this until it pops on. It just has to get past that ring. So we'll do that real quick. There it is. It's that easy. Get that on there, slip that over in place. Go ahead and get your big clamp. Put this back on. One thing I forgot, so I just pulled that. I actually had it all on there, and then I took the clamp back off. Here's where you're going to put the rest of that grease. So just take it. You can try to pull it aside and angle it back this way and get it into there, and just try to get it on the joint though itself. That way it's got a little fresh grease in there. Then put your clamp on. There we go. Okay, so we got that back together. Pretty much, I think you got it from here. I hope this video was helpful and a lot shorter than the last one. This should be less than 30 minutes long. Hopefully maybe about 20 minutes when it's all said and done. So anyways, sorry about the other long one that was super long. I just wanted to make a video that was that showed all the steps. One guy kind of skipped a couple steps, but it was still a great video. And so I figured, you know what, I want to try to make some videos of the things I do, and they may not be all having to do with quads, because I only have 4 quads, so I can only do so many repairs. But at least I can show you some stuff that that I just don't think is out there, the full steps on how to do something. So this job is really easy, and I know a friend of mine that lives nearby is going to want me to do his now, because I was able to do this so quickly. So anyways, thanks a lot. If you got any questions or comments, just put them on the there, positive or negative. I guess I have to take both if I do this. So thanks for watching. Later.